Mandela is a hero we all want to become. Mandela negotiated up to here, fought up to here. It is our generation which must pick up the spear and continue the fight. I'm a king. African women have always been leadership. And no one is doing them a favor when you say women must lead. No one must even try to impress women about leadership. That's why we had Queen Mujaji. Queen Mujaji, the reign queen. So to show you that when we say, let's go back to who we are, someone is going to, some person who suffers from patriarchy is going to say, "Aye, our olden days does not allow women to lead." Okay, Mujaji, where does he come from? Where does she come from? Because she led even before these things that you are talking about. African leadership embraces women leadership. And no one must never in our name isolate women, because you will never win that struggle. Our house, the EFF building, EFF is the only political party in South Africa that owns its own head office. It's named after Winnie Mandela. It's named after Winnie Mandela. Why? We want Winnie Mandela to multiply. They wanted to suppress that voice. And we went to fetch it from the grave. And that voice is speaking right at the city center of Johannesburg. Whether they like it or not, that woman's voice still speaks, because they never wanted to hear that voice. We're still forcing that voice on them, because they thought during her death they've defeated her. But we're demonstrating in action that you will never defeat what Winnie Mandela stood for. A principle remains a principle. It doesn't matter the consequences. That's why Mandela said, "I'm prepared to die." It was not an opportunistic statement. It was a statement of intent. Because why did Mandela say that statement, by the way? Mandela was in the consultation room with George Bizos and all the best lawyers he could get. They told Mandela, "Guilty, you are now going to plead. Please ask for forgiveness, everything." Mandela said, "The day I say that, this thing we're arrested for is going to die here. It's going to finish with me. I'm not going to say that." They argued for too long. Ultimately, they left him to go and say what he wanted to say. That's when he went in there and said, because they told him there's no lesser sentence, they were right. The sentence was death. He knew he was going to die. He was not making a joke or a populist statement. He knew that we are gone. It's done. So I'm not going to die on my knees. I'm going to die with my boots on. That's why he said, "I'm prepared to die." You must be that Nelson Mandela that we still benefit from. 27 years in jail. No, there's a possibility of going out, but we have to negotiate. There's no way. You have to stand up. Hey, who wants to talk now? We can show each other. Some of you here can't even take 10 days. 10 days. You'll sell out the whole SRC. The whole SRC gone. A man spent 27 years. When we are excited, we say, he sold out, he sold out. Mandela is a hero we all want to become. Mandela negotiated up to here, fought up to here. It is our generation which must pick up the spear and continue the fight. Zimbabweans have got themselves to blame. They can go anywhere and say what they want to say. They are part of us, they are part of Africa. But the problem of Zimbabwe can only be solved by the people of Zimbabwe. We can only give them support and solidarity support. But the Zimbabwean youth must stand up. This thing of just being scared of old men who can't even walk, and you are scared of them instead of engaging in a rebellion against those people. The civil rights movement is being suppressed in Zimbabwe. But equally, the votes are being stolen daylight. Chamisa has won elections there many times. But who runs the elections? The army. They go into the villages, in the voting stations in the villages. They do as they wish, and no one is being held accountable. We don't agree with the sanctions against Zimbabwe because sanctions only serve to make the poor of the poorest suffer. When you sanction, the political elite has got access to resources. It can always import anything they want to import, and they will continue with their lives. But the poor of the poorest are going to die. That's why we call for the lifting of sanctions in Zimbabwe. But the youth of Zimbabwe must stand up. There is no Malema who's going to come from here and go and liberate Harare. Only the power of the youth of Zimbabwe can change the political status quo. And the Zimbabweans have to know that we are with them. Including Zimbabweans who are here in South Africa. When there are elections, get into buses and go home. Go and fight from there. Because the humiliation that you are being subjected to here in South Africa is if you don't have your own homes. It's high time that you take it upon yourself and organize yourselves. EFF is there. We can even sponsor buses. Ora, go and vote. If you are here to study, you can come back, study, no problem, but go and vote. So that we know that at least you are also doing something. The humiliation and the violation that Zimbabweans are being subjected to, highly educated individuals and human beings, it's not what a human being must be subjected to. But it starts with you as Zimbabweans to fight for the freedom and the self-determination of the people of Zimbabwe.
It's a much shorter question. I'm coming to you as someone who identifies as a white female leader in a black-led environment. And I was just wondering if you could clarify the whole sort of, what did I say? The sort of like the supervision. Is there no space for white people to work with black people as equals instead of black people feeling like they're supervised just because we're white? Because I feel like there is so much room for people to be equal in the space of leadership.
No one has ever said white people have got no place in South Africa. We refuse white supervision. And they do it unwittingly, some of them, because they've been taught to think they are superior. It's some of them is in their DNA. He just finds herself or himself dominating you on subjects he knows nothing about, because they think their skin color permit them to dominate you. Never feel apologetic about white people who say, but why do you say we're racist? I'm not racist. I'm not talking about you. But you need to know, my sister, everything in this country is race. Everything, our problems in this country were started by race. Come, yeah. Come, kaka. When they came in 1652, they did not conquer the land. They conquered us, pushed us away from our own land. When they discovered the minerals, they removed us from potential ownership of the means of production. And they even legalized that by race, not by class. They never used the class to divide us. They used the race. When we speak as black people about how we despise racism, white liberals must keep quiet and listen to us. Until we've resolved the racial question, any other issue will never be resolved. Now that's my relationship with white people. When they walk in, I'm like, the war is starting now. Let me understand. When they speak, I listen twice. And once they want to do those things of white supremacists, I tell them, don't start with those things. Don't even try. So every racist everywhere, where they raise their ugly head, they must be confronted. We must teach them to unlearn racism. And that's what the white liberals must do. They ought to listen to our battle cry without seeking to remind us all the time that they are good. If they are good, we'll not know it by their mouth, we'll know it by their deeds. Thank you very much.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I think I'm a king,